getting set for the gold medal in the 62-kilo class. This could be the most competitive final of the night. In blue, representing Canada, Marty Calder of St. Catharines, Ontario. In red, John Melling. Representing England, two wrestlers cut from the same cloth. They both trained together at Simon Fraser University, Ian.
Marty trying to defend a leg shot with a front headlock. He'll go to head pinch and try and get points in the perimeter.
Nope, referee saying no points.
And they won't penalize the offensive wrestler if he ends up on his back out of bounds.
I'd like to welcome back to our broadcast position Chris Wilson, gold medalist last night at 68 kilos. Here's the tail of the tape, if you will, on these two wrestlers. Calder, the better athlete, the better wrestler, quicker, more explosive. He's got more experience. Melling in red is bigger and stronger. Very emotional, Chris. He really gets up for his tournaments, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he's really a bit of an animal out there.
As I mentioned, they both train at Simon Fraser University. And Marty Calder has time and time again really beaten up Melling in training. But competition, Ian, is a different situation. Calder
might be the more cerebral wrestler, and Melling the more emotional wrestler. Melling's got to be careful that his emotions don't lead him to make rash decisions out there. It'll cost him.
Here's the Canadian strategy for tonight. Marty Calder will try to score early, because Melling is known as a slow burner in wrestling. He comes on as the bout moves on.
Calder working for the 2-on-1, almost managed a single-point takedown on the go-behind, but Melling scrambled out of it.
Still no score. 3:49 to go as the English coach looks on.
Melling on the legs again. Calder's trying to counter, trying to elevate the hips and get a tilt. He's got to watch, he doesn't allow his leg to get elevated.
John Melling feeds off the crowd, becomes quite a bull on the mat when he gets pumped up. Marty Calder, also an athlete who gets quite psyched up, Chris, if you will, before his bout. We saw when he was introduced, he came up and smashed the mat with his fist.
Marty relies a lot on the adrenaline. Just have to make one small correction. Marty does train at Burning Mountain a lot, but most of the time he trains out of Brock University in St. Catharines. So some of those Ontario people will be upset at it.
Yeah, hello, Richard de Chatelet.
Two wrestlers who know each other very well, unable to score a point yet, with 3:02 remaining. Melling in red for England, nothing. Calder for Canada in blue, nothing.
The referee has decided that Marty Calder was being passive, wasn't wrestling offensively enough, and so Melling will get choice to put him up or down, decides to put him in the referee's position. We can see him here trying to cross the ankles to get into a laced ankles position and then turn his opponent. Calder reacting by keeping his legs apart and watching very carefully Melling's hands. Stalemate, both to the feet.
So Melling turns the tables on Calder, and as this match goes on, you got to wonder if the Englishman gets stronger, Chris.
John's in really good shape. You know, he's been training quite hard, and he's so tenacious. You know, he just doesn't give up, and you probably see here that Marty's going to have a real hard time scoring.
Calder trying to stretch him out. He'll try and keep Melling's head down, because where the head goes in wrestling, the body will follow. They keep the head down and try and break the grip of the hands. Unable to do so. Stalemate again called by the referee. Both wrestlers to the feet.
2:17 to go in this 62-kilo gold medal match. Melling of England in red, Calder of St. Catharines, Ontario in blue. Scoreless. The time ticking away. The look on Melling is that he can sometimes get frustrated.
Melling attacking again and unable to score, and this indeed may frustrate him and might be in Marty Calder's favor. Edge of the mat, gotta watch out, no points.
The one interesting thing with this match is they're both really good counterattack wrestlers, so you're seeing a lot of sort of half shots and then a lot of action after those shots, so it's really exciting.
What does that mean, that they're being a little tentative out there?
Neither of them are known for great primary attacks. That was a great shot on John's part. A lot of them rely on kind of reacting off somebody else's shot.
I would think with the heat here in the Juan de Fuca Recreation Center that as the match goes on and the wrestlers sweat more, it becomes more difficult to make a move.
It is hard to set your opponents up. You have a hard time pulling on their arms, so you try to rely more on faking than on physically moving your opponent.
Right. Mark Lee along with Chris Wilson and Ian McDonald here in the gold medal bout. For the 62-kilo class in wrestling, there is a stoppage in action with 1:44 left on the clock. Still no score.
The referee is conferring with the mat judge and the mat chairman. They're deciding whether or not Melling forced Calder to flee on the edge of the mat, and if he did, they might award a point.
English coach calling for a point. A lot of shouting going on here on the match. Melling still looking around at the officials, waiting to see if the point will appear on the scoreboard. It's still 0-0.
There they were saying that Calder went out of bounds on purpose, didn't make enough of an effort to stay in, so they gave Melling 1 point and Calder a caution. So
there the point goes up on the scoreboard. 1-0 now, Melling.
Melling looking for a gut wrench, has the hands tight around the waist, will pressure forward, unable to get enough pressure and unable to get his hips completely underneath Calder. Calder with his hips glued to the mat, wins the stalemate, back to his feet. He's got to come from behind now.
1:30 to go in this gold medal bout. A reminder that one man must score 3 points for this gold medal match to be decided in regulation time. If not, they go to a 3-minute overtime.
Melling shooting again. He's really carrying this match to Calder. Calder countering, front headlock, trying to get into the ankles. They go out of bounds.
1:12 to go, and this is really when John Melling is at his best. He gets stronger as the match goes on. Marty Calder was hoping to score early on the Englishman, but that has not happened.
They're both pretty good in the late stages of the match. It's too close to call here. We'll see what happens. Both out of bounds again.
one thing that's going to give Marty a little bit of a hard time is he relies a lot on the move called the front head and arm, where you grab the head and the arm at the same time. And when John's as sweaty as he is, it makes it pretty hard to score on.
There he goes.
This is what Marty's in right now. And
double underhook shot.
He lost it again. 45 seconds to go. 1-0. John Melling of England in red in front of Marty Calder in blue, wrestling for Canada.
Marty Calder has to be careful when they're in the red perimeter there, the red zone, that he doesn't be too passive and expect the referee's whistle. But because if Melling attacks there and they go out of bounds, they might give Melling a point for starting action inbounds and carrying it out. Calder's got to make an attempt to continue to wrestle and stay inbounds.
Chris, how tired do you think these guys are right now?
They're exhausted because they're both feeling a ton of pressure. Everybody knew it was going to be a real close match. John's pretty well known in England. Marty's quite well known in Canada.
There's a big move. 1 point.
Point takedown. He had a single leg, and what he did is that he switched to double by elevating the one leg that he had and stepping across to get the point takedown.
Marty's got to keep that kind of motion going.
1-1, 30 seconds to go in this gold medal battle at 62 kilos. This has been a very competitive weight class here at the Commonwealth Games.
Marty was a bit unlucky there because John stepped out of bounds a little bit.
You have to know where you are in the perimeter of the mat. It's very important to continue wrestling there, especially on the offensive. This time, Calder will get a shot at wrestling on top. Melling being called for passivity.
Just 17 seconds remaining in regulation. 1-1. Calder and Melling, and the Englishman is down in the referee's position.
This is where the Canadians throughout the tournament.
Oh, what a big move! 2 points!
2 points in the gut wrench, and all tournament long, the Canadians have shown the mastery in the parterre and the ground position.
That makes it 3-1 Calder. If he can hang on now, 5 seconds. 2. And the clock stops on the whistle. 2 seconds to go for Marty Calder of St. Catharines. What a comeback!
Mark, that's so much guts on Marty's part because John is so sweaty. Good for him. Right on.
Time! And that's the match! John Melling, in frustration, hits the mat with his hands. Marty Calder raised his fist in victory. The final score. Calder defeating the exhausted Englishman 3-1. What a thrilling match!
John's a little upset. He thought Marty jumped the gun a little bit on the start there, but I thought it was pretty clean.
Great gut wrench. Win the match in the dying seconds.
That showed a lot of courage on Marty's part to go for that late a time. Usually guys try to hold off and try to win in overtime, but it sure paid off for Marty there.
The rest of the Canadian team, you just saw Greg Edgelow standing and cheering. Tell me about the team concept here. I know it's an individual sport, but you guys have really bonded, haven't you?
We have. You know, it's been really nice. Everybody's done really well, and
Watching the
here
gut
you see
wrench.
that gut wrench. Great job.
Great job.
As you saw, he was already starting to slip, and Marty just kept driving with his legs, popped his hip a bit, and John went over.
Sweaty, tired, exhausted, but elated. Marty Calder of St. Catharines, the third Canadian tonight to win a gold medal in 3 finals. Still 2 more finals to come here in wrestling at the Juan de Fuca Recreation Center. We'll have those later tonight.